Elara Foss had learned how to live small. 3 years ago, she had been the queen of the Blackthorn pack, loved by many and respected by all. Now she sold herbs at the edge of the border market, wrapped in a plain grey cloak that hid her face. She kept her eyes down and her voice quiet. She had learned that the safest way to survive was to become invisible. Each morning, she laid out her little bundles of dried leaves and roots on a wooden table. She sold lavender for sleep, mint for the stomach, and chamomile for tired hearts. The people who bought from her did not know who she had once been. They only knew her as the quiet herb woman who never asked for more than a fair price. She liked it that way. When no one knew your name, no one could hurt you with it. But she still remembered everything. She remembered the great stone halls of the pack. She remembered the warm hand of the man she had loved, and she remembered the terrible night when everything had been taken from her, when she had been accused of a betrayal she never committed, and cast out into the cold with nothing but the clothes on her back. She had stopped crying about it long ago. Tears did not bring back a stolen life. On this particular morning, the market was busy and loud. Merchants shouted their prices. Children ran between the stalls. The smell of fresh bread drifted through the crisp air. Elara counted her coins and thought about the long walk home. Then a scream cut through the noise. Near the stone fountain in the center of the square, a large man in fine clothes had knocked over a fruit cart. The apples rolled across the ground in every direction. The man was a guard for a wealthy merchant, and his face was red with anger. In front of him stood an older woman, small and gray-haired, who had accidentally bumped into his cart while trying to pass. "You clumsy fool," the guard shouted. "Do you know how much this cost?" "I am so sorry," the older woman said softly. "It was an accident. Please, let me help you." But the guard did not want help. He wanted someone to blame. He raised his hand high above the frightened woman, ready to strike her down in front of the whole market. The crowd froze. Dozens of people watched, but not one of them moved. They looked away. They stepped back. No one wanted trouble. No one except Elara. Before she even knew what she was doing, she had crossed the square. She reached out and caught the guard's wrist in midair, stopping his hand before it could fall. "That is enough," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. The guard turned to her with fury in his eyes. "Who do you think you are? Let go of me, woman." "She made a mistake," Elara said, still holding his wrist. "You will not hurt her for it. Take her money if you must, but you will not raise your hand to an old woman in the middle of the street." For a moment, the guard seemed too surprised to speak. He was twice her size, yet this small figure in a grey cloak stood before him without fear. The crowd began to murmur. A few people nodded. The guard felt their eyes on him, and slowly, his anger turned to embarrassment. He yanked his hand free, grumbled something under his breath, and stormed away, leaving his apples scattered on the ground. Elara let out a slow breath. Only then did she turn to look at the woman she had saved. And when she saw the older woman's face, her heart stopped. She knew this face. She had seen it 1,000 times, in the great halls of the pack, at feasts and ceremonies and quiet family dinners. This was Serafina, the mother of the Alpha King. This was the mother of the very man who had cast her out. Serafina looked back at her, and her old eyes went wide. She lifted a trembling hand toward Elara's hood. "You," she whispered. "Can it be? Elara, is that truly you?" Elara's first instinct was to run. She could disappear into the crowd, vanish the way she had learned to do, and never be seen again. This family had destroyed her. Why should she stay to be recognized? But she did not run. Serafina was still shaking from the fright of the guard, and something in Elara would not let her leave an old woman alone and afraid. "You should sit down," Elara said gently. She guided Serafina to the edge of the fountain and helped her lower herself onto the cool stone. She took the older woman's trembling hands in her own and held them steady. "Breathe slowly. You are safe now." Serafina stared at her the whole time, tears filling her eyes. "It is you," she said again. "After all this time, I thought I would never see your face again." Word of what had happened traveled through the market like wind through grass. A woman had stood up to a merchant's guard. The guard had backed down, and the woman he had threatened was no ordinary woman. but the mother of the Alpha King himself. By early afternoon, the news had reached the great hall of the Blackthorn pack. Alpha King Cale Blackthorn heard it from a breathless messenger who came running into his chamber. His mother had been threatened in the border market. A guard had raised his hand to her. Cale was on his feet before the messenger even finished speaking, his heart pounding with fear and rage. He rode to the market himself, his cloak flying behind him, ready to find the man who had dared threaten his mother and see justice done. But when he arrived at the fountain square and pushed through the gathered crowd, what he found stopped him cold. His mother was safe, sitting on the edge of the fountain, and kneeling before her, holding her hands, tending to her gently, was a woman in a grey cloak, whose face he would have known anywhere. Ilara, the woman he had banished 3 years ago, the woman he had accused of betrayal, the woman he had told himself he hated, even as he lay awake night after night unable to forget her. For a long moment, Cale could not speak. The storm in his chest turned into something else, something he had buried for a very long time. Ilara, he said at last. She looked up at him. Her face showed no anger, only a quiet, tired calm. Cale, she answered simply. Serafina looked between the two of them, and then she did something no one expected. She began to weep, not from fear, but from something heavier that she had carried for far too long. I have to tell you the truth, she said. I cannot keep it inside any longer. Not after today. Not after she saved my life when she had every reason to walk away. Cale turned to his mother, confused. What truth, mother? Serafina took a deep breath. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. The betrayal 3 years ago. The one we blamed on Ilara. She did not do it, Cale. She was innocent all along. The words hit Cale like a wave of cold water. What are you saying? It was your cousin, Darian, Serafina said. He wanted power. He wanted the throne for himself. He knew that as long as you and Ilara ruled together, he would never have his chance. So he created false evidence. He made it look as though Ilara had betrayed the pack. And he came to me, and he threatened me. He said that if I ever told the truth, he would harm the people I loved. I was afraid, Cale. I was a foolish, frightened old woman, and I stayed silent. I let an innocent girl be cast out to save myself from fear. I have carried that shame every single day since. The whole square had gone quiet. The people who had gathered listened in stunned silence. Cale felt the ground shift beneath him. Every accusation he had thrown at Ilara, every cold word, every cruel command, all of it had been built on a lie. The betrayal that had broken his heart and shattered his marriage had never been real at all. He turned to look at Ilara, and the pain in his eyes was almost too much to bear. 3 years, he whispered. For 3 years I believed you had betrayed me. I sent you away. I let you suffer. And all this time, you were innocent. Ilara said nothing. She simply held his gaze, and in her silence there was a wound that had never fully healed. Cale dropped to his knees before her, right there in the middle of the market, in front of his people. I have no words that can undo what I have done, he said. I have no excuse. I should have trusted you. I should have questioned the evidence. I should have fought for you instead of turning against you. I failed you in every way a man can fail the woman he loves. The crowd whispered in amazement. An Alpha King on his knees was a thing almost never seen. But Ilara did not fall into his arms. She had learned too much in 3 years of exile to be swept away by pretty words, even honest ones. She looked at him steadily. You believed the worst of me so easily, she said quietly. You looked at me, the woman you had loved, and you chose to believe I was a traitor. Kneeling in the dirt now does not erase that. Trust that breaks in a single night does not mend in a single afternoon. Cale bowed his head. I know, he said. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I ask only for the chance to earn it, one day at a time, for the rest of my life if you will let me. Ilara was silent for a long time. Around her, the market held its breath. Then she said, You dealt with this cousin of yours. What of him? Cale lifted his head. There was steel in his voice now. Darian will answer for what he has done. He will be stripped of his title and cast out, the way he tried to cast you out. He will never again be allowed to harm this pack or anyone in it. That, I promise you here and now, in front of all these people as my witness." Serafina reached out and touched Ilara's arm. "Child," she said softly, "I do not ask you to forgive me. I only wanted you to know the truth. You saved my life today, and I could not let you go on believing you deserved the pain we gave you. You were always good. You were always kind, and I will spend whatever years I have left telling anyone who will listen how wrong we were about you." Something in Ilara's chest, something that had been locked and frozen for 3 long years, began at last to thaw. Not all at once, not completely, but a little. The afternoon slipped away, and the sun began to sink toward the hills. Golden light spilled across the market square. Slowly, the crowd began to disperse, whispering about the incredible thing they had witnessed. Kale did not let Ilara leave. He walked with her to the edge of the market, his mother beside them, and there in the soft evening light he spoke to her again, this time without the crowd watching. "I do not expect you to trust me tonight," he said. "I do not expect you to love me again, though I have never stopped loving you. But I cannot let you walk back into the shadows and disappear. You are not a stranger. You are not an herb seller in a grey cloak. You are Ilara, and you were wronged, and I mean to set it right in every way I can." Ilara looked out at the hills, at the place where the pack lands stretched golden in the dying light. She thought of everything she had lost, and everything that had been stolen, and the long, lonely nights she had spent believing no one would ever know she was innocent. And now they knew. All of them knew. "I have built a small life," she said, "a quiet one. It is not much, but it is mine, and no one can take it from me the way my old life was taken." "I would not take it from you," Kale said. "I only offer you more if you should ever want it. The choice is yours, and it always will be. I will never again decide your fate without you. That is my promise." As night fell over the packlands, Kale did one more thing. He gathered his people in the great square before the hall, and he stood before them all, tall and clear-voiced, and he told them the truth. He told them that Ilara had never betrayed them. He told them of Darian's treachery and his mother's frightened silence. He told them that the woman they had once loved as their queen had been innocent all along. And then he said the words that made the whole gathering fall silent. "Ilara Voss is, and has always been my queen," he declared. "Not because I command it, but because it is the truth, and it always was. I welcome her home, not as a matter of law, but as a matter of the heart. Whether she chooses to stay is for her to decide. But let no one in this pack ever again speak her name with anything but honor." The people cheered. Some of them wept, and through it all, Ilara stood at the edge of the crowd, watching the man who had once broken her now stand before his people and try, at last, to make things right. She did not run into his arms. She was not ready for that, and perhaps she never would be. Trust, once broken, is a slow thing to rebuild. But when Kale stepped down and came to stand before her, and when he held out his hand, she looked at it for a long moment, and then she took it. It was not forgiveness, not yet. It was not a promise of love restored. It was something smaller and truer than that. It was a first step, a single step, taken in the cool blue light of nightfall. The woman who had learned to live small stood tall again that night, not because a king had lifted her up, not because his crown had made her a queen once more. She stood tall because through 3 years of exile and silence and shame, she had never truly bowed. She had kept her kindness, she had kept her courage, and when the moment came to save a frightened old woman from harm, she had not hesitated, even though that woman belonged to the family that had wronged her. That was the truth of Ilara Voss, not that she had been a queen, and not that she might be one again, but that she had always, in her heart, been someone worth saving in return. And so, hand in hand beneath the rising moon, they began the long and careful road back to each other, one honest step at a time.